innovations in the transport sector. And it's an exciting moment to be working in transport, because this is a sector where there are a lot of things happening, lots of new innovations, autonomous vehicle, electrification, digitalization, just to mention a few of them. So my name is Nicolas Pelletier-Tiberge. I'm from the World Bank. I'm a senior advisor, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this session that is co-organized by the World Bank in collaboration with the Korea Transport Institute. And I really want to give a shout out to our partner from KOTI, because we have had a very long partnership with the Korea Transport Institute, and today's session is another step in this collaboration. So transport systems play a fundamental role in supporting economic growth. We heard it this morning at the TT plenaries to expand access to jobs and markets and facilitate the movement of goods and services. In recent years, we've seen a lot of new development in mobility innovations, from digital platforms, new transport services, to integrate mobility systems and smart infrastructure. And one of the issues with innovation is how we get on this S-curve. How do we scale? How you bring a new idea from the pilot stage to scaling and replicating. And today's session will explore how innovation can generate measurable economic and social benefits, and what are the policies, the regulation, and the investment frameworks that can help to scale these innovations effectively. So to begin, it's my great pleasure to invite Dr. Shin, who is the Vice President of the Korea Transport Institute, to deliver some opening remarks. Dr. Shin, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests and colleagues, participants. My name is Hee-cheol Shin, Vice President of Korea Transport Institute. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you to this session. First, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our distinguished guest participants. In particular, I'd like to warmly welcome Mr. Keshav Kumar Sharma, Secretary of the Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport of Nepal. I would also like to welcome our moderator, Mr. Nicolas Pelletier from the World Bank, as well as our distinguished panelists, Ms. Heather Thompson of ITDP, Mr. Henrik Rundorf Christensen from the city of Copenhagen, No Yamaguchi Sensei, and Mr. Hanchula Ratnayake from the Road Development Authority of Sri Lanka. Thank you. Finally, I would like to recognize my colleagues from KOTI, Mr. Dr. Sung Kim and Dr. Taeyoung Kim over there. This year's Transforming Transportation Conference focuses on the theme Powering Jobs and Growth. Earlier today, the plenary sessions highlighted two important points. First, how transport systems can serve as a powerful driver of economic growth and job creation. Second, how mobilizing private capital is essential for expanding and sustaining transport investment. Our session today builds on these discussions. In particular, we look more concretely at how mobility innovation can translate into real economic impact. Around the world, we are seeing rapid innovation in mobility. Digital technologies, smart mobility services, and data-driven systems are transforming how transport systems operate. In many cases, these innovations are already improving connectivity, efficiency, and accessibility. They are also creating new opportunities for businesses, and workers. But one important challenge remains. How do we move from promising innovations to scalable and sustainable mobility industries? Scaling innovation requires more than technology alone. It requires supportive regulations, institutions, and investment environments. Today's discussion will explore both the barriers that limit scale and the enablers that can unlock the full economic potential of mobility innovation. I hope this session will offer practical insights for many countries seeking to use transport innovation as a driver of jobs, growth, and sustainable development. Thank you. And
mobility can also drive job creation and foster emerging industries. Yes, and these expected impacts are not limited to Korea. This page shows the employment inducement coefficients of different countries within the transportation sector. And the global data show that the investing in transportation and mobility delivers a significant returns. And beyond the simple economic gains, it is one of the key drivers of quality job creation. Okay, but the reality is that there is a pacing problem between technology and the regulation. The technology is advancing faster than the regulation can keep up with the pace. And the government faces a persistent tension between promoting new mobility industries and protecting legacy industries. And this gap is often addressed by using experimental policy frameworks. But the main challenge is moving from experimentation to institutionalization. And let us get into more specific cases. And the first example is the Tada and taxi case. And Tada is basically a ride-hailing service similar to Uber. As this service expanded in Korea in 2018, it triggered a strong opposition from the taxi industry. The taxi industry argued like this: so we are paying a lot of money for a limited number of licenses, but this new company is providing both cars and drivers without any licenses. So how is that fair? In this case, protecting the existing industry mattered much more than the user benefits offered by this new service. So in the end, the Tada's original business model could not continue in Korea. And next is the car sharing service. And car sharing services in Korea are facing similar challenges. In Korea, car sharing is allowed only as a rental car business. It is basically to avoid the conflicts with the existing rental car and taxi systems. Limited to rental services without matching drivers with passengers. And the P2P based service sharing services, which are expanding actually in the United States and Europe, they are not still allowed in Korea. And this is the case where the regulatory framework is not yet fully developed. In Korea, micromobility sharing service have expanded to major cities. But at the same time, the accidents involving pedestrians and chaotic parking behaviors have become major issues. So as a result, the many local governments have tried to restrict these services. Actually, micromobility was officially recognized as a mode of transport in 2020 in Korea, but the regulations for sharing services of micromobility still remain unclear. So a dedicated law has been proposed for the systematic management of sharing services of micromobility, but it has remained pending for many years due to stakeholder conflict. Next is the case that requires a complex institutional coordination. In Korea, autonomous driving services are only allowed to operate under conditional permits in designated pilot regions. Also, because it spans multiple industries, it is difficult for a single law to regulate all related services. So that is why we need integrated and function-based regulation that can cover transportation, logistics, and urban safety altogether. So the Korean government is actually working to bridge the gap between innovation and regulation. The government has established a long-term roadmap for mobility innovation. And regulatory sandboxes were also expanded to connect the pilot services with institutional reform. And councils and forums have also been established to facilitate the discussions in specific mobility areas. So, as mentioned earlier, Korea has been making significant efforts because mobility can deliver major economic benefits. However, as you can see, some key challenges remain. And I believe these challenges are not unique to Korea. They are global challenges. So based on these Korean cases, I'd like to suggest a few topics for the discussion in this session. So first, we can share some examples of mobility innovations and their impacts, highlighting the key outcomes. Then we can discuss their potential for scaling the key factors, scaling and the key factors behind their success. And second, we can discuss the key barriers to scaling mobility innovation. We can also discuss how governments and development institutions can support the sustainable scale. So I look forward to a great discussion today, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for that insightful presentation. I think it has given us some many valuable points to reflect on that will be useful in the next part of this discussion. So let me now introduce our panelists for today. We have a very diverse panel, which will be able to bring different perspectives from government, international organization, and the private sector on how to scale mobility innovations. Let me start with Panchula Ratnayake, who is a project director in Kandy Multimodal Transport Terminal Development Project from Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Heather Thompson, who is the chief CEO of ITDP, the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, another a long-time partner of the World Bank. I'm very happy to welcome Heather today. Mr. Tae-Yong Kim, who is the Chief Director of at KOTI. Mr. Henrik Lundorf Christensen, who is the Chair of the Cycling Embassy of Denmark. And last but not least, Marco Yamaguchi, who is a Manager of Transport and Logistics at the African Development Bank. So let me start with a first round of questions on mobility innovations, and perhaps starting with you, Panchula, if you have one example of a mobility innovation that has delivered measurable economic or social impact that you could share with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the World Bank and the KOTI inviting me for this panel as a panelist. First of all, before I introduce this innovation matter, I'll just explain what is this KMTT and what is the innovation of this particular project. Really, the Kandy is the second capital city of Sri Lanka. It's a heritage city, the world UNESCO designated heritage city. Based on this environment, this location, it is situated in the middle of the country. So it's a very attractive city considered with the other cities of the country. So the day by day, the commuters, the passengers coming to the city was a problem for the organizations. The day by day, the traffic congestion, the footwalks, the roads were full of with the pedestrian vehicles. So try to introduce different alternatives to minimize this, manage this situation. But ultimately, the government decided to have a comprehensive study to address this matter. They finally decided to introduce this multimodal terminal for the Kandy. At present, really, all the public transports are operating in the fragmented level. The bus is operating separate program, the trains are separate, the private taxis are separate. So not only that, the buses are, most of the buses are owned by the private sector, dominated by the private sector. So very difficult to integrate these things. So introduce these things to address these issues. Kandy multimodal transport terminal project was initiated under the financing with the World Bank. So with that, the city operates with 4 sub-terminals. So the passengers come to a terminal and he has to walk to another terminal to go to their destination. But the physical arrangement is the existing major bus terminal is just divided by a fence to the railway station. The Kandy, the main hospital is the next door, the next land, and the another dominant schools, the city commercial areas are very close. So considering this scenario, this multimodal case introduced as the innovation to the existing traffic problem. This estimated this multimodal to address the more than 500 buses per day entered to this particular area. And they estimated the commuters per day about 160,000 per day entered to this particular area. So they are moving here and there. That was the unnecessary movements created unnecessary traffic within the city. So innovation is this to introduce this one to accommodate the single location and integrate all these services. So into destination, they can have the single option, the single location to get their transfers, and this is the way we are going to innovation.
Thank you very much, Panchula. And having had the opportunity of visiting Kandy last year, I can testify how important is this multimodal terminal for the city. It's a cultural heritage site, and so there are a lot of difficulties in building such a facility, and that was a fascinating experience. Thank you for sharing your innovation. Let's move to Heather. What's your innovation?
Well, I will start by just a quick bit of background on ITDP, the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. Development, as in economic development, has really been in our name for 40 years of history. I'm based out of our New York office here in the US, but we have offices all over the world, India, China, throughout East Africa, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia. So some of the examples and innovation that I'll be sharing today is from our work around the world. And it really is exciting to have TT focus on economic growth and jobs. You know, as we're out there advocating for the things that we care about, most often governments don't want to talk about greenhouse gas savings or things like that we have been the themes recently here at TT, but really they want to talk about jobs, economic development, what it means for their development. So it's really great to see the theme of TT coming full circle on that. And it's not only about the economic savings to the government at the national level, city level, state level, but also savings to families, to people that we care about. And that's what we're here to serve. So I'm going to talk about two things coming together with innovation: public transportation and electrification. We hear a lot about electrification being good for the climate, but the real story is that it's also good for the economy. It saves us money. At ITDP, we did a study a few years ago called the Compact City Electrified Study that was basically looking at climate change. Could we get to our climate targets with electrification alone? And what we found out is that yes, we could get far with electrification, but really we need a backbone of development in our cities that focuses on compact cities, hence the name of the report, Compact City Electrified. And really you need public transportation, walking and cycling to go hand in hand with electrification. At an ITDP, we call that the love story between public transport and electrification, but it's also the love story for the environment and the love story for the economy. So with that combination of public transportation and electrification, by 2050, we can save our energy consumption by 40%, which is huge to our countries, especially now, so focused on energy security. That'll also save us $5 trillion a year. But to break that down into something specific that cities care about, our studies estimate that for every bus purchased, you save about $500,000 over the lifetime of the bus in maintenance and fuel. And the most of that, about $400,000, comes from savings from fuel. Again, good for the economy, but also good for energy security. And all those savings translate to families, saving families about 50% of their money spent on transportation, and it really cuts down on time. We heard from the Minister of Transport in Indonesia today, in Tanzania, a project that we worked on, cutting travel times from 3 hours to 45 minutes. And that's what we see generally around the world, is that we're cutting travel times from multi-hours a day to around 45 minutes. Another statistic from the IEA, just last year, in 2024, electrification created 800,000 jobs in just 1 year around the country. So it's huge. I'll give one example of work that we're doing in Ethiopia in partnership with the Global Green Growth Institute, which is a Korean institute. I thought I would bring that up since we're here with KOTI today. We've been working in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, if you don't know it, is the 10th most populous country in the world and growing very quickly. In the capital city of Addis Ababa, there's about 6 million people. The country has decided to ban the import of conventional diesel vehicles. And that is for a lot of reasons, including, most importantly, because of energy security. They've been sending their very precious foreign currency reserves out of the country to bring import fuels when they actually sit on abundant renewable energy. So they're looking to electrify their energy sector and plug in green vehicles. They already have 110 e-buses running on the streets. We've been working with GGGI to model out 2 new bus rapid transit corridors that would also save money. It would allow 300,000 passengers per day and increase jobs by 600 new jobs in addition to the sector. So about half of those jobs go to women, which is also a real accomplishment of the project. Maybe one more example from Indonesia, where we've also been working with the Global Green Growth Institute. We heard earlier today about all of the investment in electrification. If we were to just focus on the 11 metro cities of Indonesia and get to 100% electrification, that would reduce greenhouse gases by 25%, but it would save more than $1 billion for the country. Again, these are really huge savings. We did a project with GGGI in Bali, and just in Bali with about 100 buses, we would be able to reduce operating costs by 20%, which would save about $750,000 annually. And in Indonesia, as we heard this morning, that's really important because the country is heavily subsidizing public transport. So that would allow them to bring their bill down by about 7% every year. So again, electrification in public transportation is not only good because it creates jobs, it creates access to jobs through better public transportation, but also at the end of the day, it's good for the economy. It saves public transport operators money, which means we can get more public transport on the streets and serve more people to get them to jobs, schools, and other opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. And this is a very convincing case of benefits for the bundling of public transport and electrification. Let's move to Tae-Young. What innovation would you like to talk about?
Okay, so everyone has a different success story. So we have also. So I want to share the Korea's experience with the DRT, demand responsive transport. DRT differs from the fixed route buses because it adapts a route and stops to real-time demand, which makes it successfully useful where traditional public transport struggles to provide frequent service efficiently. On a social side, DRT functions as a mobility welfare service in rural areas and urban fringes or newly developed districts. Fixed route buses often have limited coverage and long waiting times. So DRT helps people reach essential destinations such as hospitals and welfare facilities in market and transport hubs, especially for the adult people and households without cars. So a concrete example from Korea's major DRT operator shows that in one rural pilot, daily ridership increased from 13 to 41, more than 200% up. So at the same time, the average waiting time fell from 50 minutes to 30 minutes, 74% down, and average travel time dropped from the 50 minutes to 8 minutes, 84% down. So that's not just the convenience, it's a real improvement in access. So on an economy side, DRT can reduce the financial burden of a public transport. So when demand is low, fixed route buses often run nearly empty, which drives up the operating cost. So because DRT is demand-based and optimized, local government can maintain access while improving efficiency. So in one local government case in Korea, shifting from the inefficient fixed route to DRT was associated with estimated annual budget savings of around 31%. So the key point is that the DRT can deliver better mobility success in underserved areas and cost efficiency for local government at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tae-Young. And we know very well all the mass transit solutions for big cities, and DRT is interesting because it's solution that goes to a lower scale type of urban area. No? And so it's a really interesting innovation. Let's move to Henrik.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for hosting to KOTI and the World Bank. I could talk about how 80% of new registered cars in Denmark are electric. I could talk about how we're testing automated buses and that we have a self-driving electrical metro with the first line in operation since 2002. I could talk about electric ferries in the harbor or how shared cars are bringing down car ownership. But I'm going to go old school and talk about something that was invented 130 years ago, the bicycle. Because sometimes innovation is not just creating something new and futuristic, but it's also just looking at the solutions that we very much had in the past. And I think for all the different countries and cities present, if you look back in your archives, you would see that in the 1910s and 1920s, everybody here had a cycling culture. And the message here is not just cycling promotion in the classical sense of saying, let's embrace cycling and we'll do something good. But the message is also that bikes means business. And I'm happy that Heather, she brought up the connection to public transport, because one of the innovations of embracing cycling is it's a public transport supercharger. I'm a huge fan of transit. I think everybody is, but there is the overarching problem that usually public transport starts in a spot where you're not, and it brings you to a spot where you don't want to go. You always need like a little enabler. And it's very simple that a 15-minute walk in the beginning or the end of your journey, if you do that by bike, it's a 5-minute journey and the travel time compresses and you have a lot more attractive products. So this link is very key. In Denmark and in Copenhagen, we've been calculating the benefits of our cycling culture for a few years. And when we do the overall socioeconomic view, taking into account the time saved from less congestion, health effects, less noise, less air pollution, the whole bundle, we see that every kilometer done on a bike actually generates about €1 in income directly to the public treasury, because there's so much good effects from it. Don't want to go too much into cars, but I can tell you it's negative, the net effect. And what we've been trying to do the last few years is basically to embrace how the cycling sector is an enabler of jobs and growth creation. So a few numbers, because this is still very, very new for us, even in Copenhagen. We've just been taking this for granted. But when we look at it, we have an industry of 1,500 companies that are spread out from manufacturing to services, consultancy, repair, over retail. It's an industry that has more than 6,000 people employed. Half of that is full-time employment. And of course, a small country with 6 million people, it's probably hard for you to know, is that a lot or is that a little? But I think the message is just start looking at it, cycling as a separate industry that actually moves a lot of people. Even here in DC, like if you go to the streets and you open your eyes, you will see a lot of delivery workers who are going by bike. Like there's so much invisible in the sector that actually generates a lot of growth. Cycling tourism is a huge job creator, and it's good jobs. It's jobs that creates activity in rural areas. It's jobs that typically leads to people staying an extra night outside of the cities, people spending on restaurants. So just to summarize, the message is that bikes really means business, and we're just starting to look at the impacts back in Copenhagen. Just a final remark, a study was done last year by the European cycling industries with the EIT, and it showed that the net benefit from bike sharing in Europe is 350 million euros a year. And it's an industry that's expected to hit €1 billion in 2030, saving almost 50,000 tons of CO2, preventing chronic diseases, saving hours in congestion, et cetera, et cetera. I could give you a lot of numbers, but I think that confuses, and it's just sometimes just do the eye test and look at it and says, does this sector make sense, and should we start calculating it and counting it? And I think we should.
Thank you, Henrik. And Heather and I could not confirm more what you just said. We published a publication together on the economic benefits of active mobility, and indeed the case is very, very strong. So let's move to Marco. What is your innovation you would like to talk about today?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Nicola. Not as much as that the World Bank has, but recently we financed the KOTI. KOTI is Kigali Urban Transport Improvement Project, phase 1. To the Rwanda government, also we work with the Rwanda Development Board. Why this is innovative is simply because we have a capacity to integrate and all of the element into the one single project. That was the first project for us to support the I think other panelists already mentioned, but the NMT, the non-motorized transport. That was the first the component that we could include within our project, and we have this e-bus component also included within the program. Of course, charging station as well, and the designing of the intersection of the city of the Kigali is also included, and so yeah, the point is if we do this one singular activity, let's say NMT cannot become bankable, but we have a capacity to package as a one single project. And then I think this is very innovative. This is our first case for the urban the transport project, but the same as the other region of the world. Africa is definitely the getting of the more and more issue of the urbanization. And so starting from the Kigali, that we want to replicate this type of the integrated approach of the urban transport and having the different component. That is a very for us is we think very much innovative. One thing just I want to emphasize. I mean, the slightly different view that the thinking is not necessarily maybe totally FDBs, but we do support the electrification, but in the meantime, and also yes, I am the one actually who is launching the green mobility facility for Africa, that to promote the namely electric vehicle. But in the meantime, I think we are the one of the few institutions who is looking at a little bit more the realistic approach, particularly in Africa, where before jumping into the electric, we do have the other source of the energy who can make the most of it, and in the more cost efficient the manner, such as the gas. So we do have the FDB. We do have the gas policy. We are still supporting in parallel with the electrification promotion. There are many countries in Africa. They're still they're struggling to secure the enough the electric. So when we go to the some of the transport, the minister or even president office, and trying to promote the electrification project, then they will come back to us asking that, then okay, you guys need to do, and then promote the renewable energy in a package. Of course, we do it, but that is cost actually. So we one step back. Not all the countries, but particularly West Africa, where there's abundance of the gas, is available. So we still do the CNG conversion program. That is much cheaper, and also in terms of the job creation. Yes, the electrification itself can create a new job. But in the meantime, if you look at the manufacturing space in automobile, we have some clients that the manufacturer, they have a full the ecosystem of the conventional type of the vehicle, the manufacturing. But if we jump to the electrification, all of a sudden they lose job actually. So it's not easy just for them to just transfer to the EV to produce. They don't have technical capacity yet. So we are little bit. I know that we have a lot of pressure from donors. We have to move it, but some country still in Africa in my view, it's not yet the level of the jumping to the electric. So that is we are a little bit slightly different view that probably from different other development agencies that I want to mention a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. So there will be two innovations there. One is the bundling of header and handling, so the BRT plus C-bus plus NMT, and the other one is this question of CNG buses as a transition technology. So we are a little bit short on time, but we are going to do a second round of questions with our panelists. So we have 5 innovations here. And the next question is, how do you bring them to scale? No? And so perhaps if you could mention what is, in your opinion, the most critical barrier that is preventing those innovations for scaling efficiently. And this time, let's go in the reverse order, and let's start with you, Marco. What do you see as the main barrier?
Barrier, yes. When we look at okay, let's say this. I saw that the taxi. I think World Bank also putting a lot of effort on the paratransit to promote. We have one example, and then I think this good case for as a barrier. Is several years ago we did the asset-backed finance to the taxi finance company called the SA Taxi in South Africa. If you go to the Joburg or the southern area or anywhere in Africa, you see that the Toyota's Hiace, the minivan, and realistically speaking, it's not the regulated industry we know, but in the meantime, this is still 60-70% of the mode of transport particularly in urban area. So we did we tried to make it happen to finance. It was the online facility to the SA Taxi, which give the cheap finance backed by us, to the SME taxi owners in South Africa. It looks good, and yes, we want to replicate. But in the meantime, when I spoke with this CEO, we give you the second round of the finance, but with the condition that if you want to move to the more the efficient fuel, actually such as electric or the CNG. But the problem is the barrier is that they are not, the private sector is not in position to finance the infrastructure. So he come back to me by saying, "Oh, it's your role to prepare the infrastructure for me." In case of the electric, is a charging station is a good example. Sometime CNG for the pipeline, the gas from the Mozambique to South Africa, etc. We cannot just leave them, to finance by themselves. So that is, I think, the big the barrier. And then this is the World Bank FDB's role to play. And probably for us, FDB probably sometime we are not ready yet. And this is one of the barriers that we can really support this type of the new the private sector engagement in the mobility space. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marco. So access to financing as a main barrier, and financial intermediation and blended finance potentially as a solution. Let's move to Henrik.
Yeah, I think I could also ask for access to financing, but like the one silver bullet to grow my innovation cycling would be speeds. If we could bring down global speeds, it would make cycling a lot more attractive. If we could have 30 kilometer in urban nodes everywhere in the world, like that would make cycling attractive. It would make it safe. There are so many good organizations working for this already. GDCI, WRI, ITTP, the World Bank. There are so many that are creating spaces where we can have that conversation. And the cool thing about doing that is that all the other modes would still be welcome. I mean, I'm not here waging a war on cars. And if we have 30 kilometers, cars automatic cars, electric cars can drive there, buses can drive there, but we need to level the playing field. And right now the playing field is very much tipped against walking and cycling. So if we could go for 30 km in all urban spaces, that would make it really, really attractive to use bikes.
Great point. Thanks, Henrik. Tae-young?
Yeah, I want to suggest key barriers in 3 areas from Korea experience: the regulation and legal frameworks, and data governance, and the political economy of incumbents. So first of all, the regulation and legal frameworks often lag behind innovation. So innovation move fast, but the laws and licensing frameworks are typically designed around existing market structures. So in Korea, only platform-based services entered the market before there was a clear legal framework to accommodate them. So this contributes to conflict and in some cases, service disruption. The second, the limit of data integration and sharing due to weak data governance. So some mobility services, especially for mass mobility as a service, requires integrating data from buses, metro, taxis, and DRT, shared micro-mobility, and parking, and so on. But in practice, data is fragmented across public agencies, private operators, and platforms. And the rules for the sharing data are often unclear. So the problem is not just the technology. So it is the absence of the trusted governance framework. Finally, the political economic constraints and incumbent resistance. The mobility innovation can affect their existing livelihood and revenue models, particularly in their taxi sectors and conventional public transport. So without a mechanism to manage these tensions, innovation faces resistance and scaling becomes politically and socially difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Tae-young. Regulation, political economy, and data. Heather?
So staying on the theme of electric public transportation, 2 big barriers come to mind. One, as was referenced, the upfront cost of capital is higher. So as I explained earlier, over the lifetime of a bus, you save significant amount of money. Again, we estimate about $500,000 per bus. But the issue is that the upfront expense is higher. So how do we overcome that? And what we're seeing is that there are a lot of new business models that are different from more traditional bus fleets that are allowing new money to come into the purchase. So new public-private partnerships that are allowing new business models. So one of the ones that is often referenced is instead of the operator buying and owning the bus, instead they lease the bus, and the bus is owned by somebody that knows how to manage batteries, and can make sure that the life cycle of the battery is maintained. So that helps build local capacity to manage the buses, but also it puts the risk on the owner of the bus instead of the operator of the bus. The operators are often smaller businesses that aren't creditworthy and can't afford those loans. So it creates new business models and allows private sector funding to come into the operations. The other thing, again, is upfront costs of buses are higher. It's especially high if a smaller city is trying to do a small bus purchase. Often cities are starting with some pilot buses, they're purchasing 10 buses or so, and each one of those buses is really expensive. But when we can purchase buses in mass, that allows the producers to produce them at scale, that brings down the cost for whoever's purchasing them. So ideally that's done at a national level or even a regional level where we can conglomerate procurement into aggregated or pooled procurement for hundreds of thousands of buses. That also gives a signal to local manufacturers that demand is coming. Governments can invest money to help support that manufacturing, which again is good for the economy and good for jobs. So new business models for operating buses and new models for procurement. And of course, it's always great when banks help support those procurement programs and business models too.
Thank you, Heather. Panchula?
Really, I have a couple of critical issues, but difficult to find the most critical one. As I explained earlier, the Candy at present, all the buses are operating with 110 bus bays. Once we complete this terminal, it has to be limited to, we are giving only 45 bus bays. So we have to manage this 110 to 45 the entire operation for the 5,000 buses. So the problem is most of the majority of the public buses is the private sector. So very difficult to share their cooperation. The coordination is the difficult thing to prepare this type of management. That is the key. The present government is handling this particular work because something's limited based on the pertaining laws and regulations. Their timetables, their schedules, their route permits, those things coming under the pertaining constitution. So it's difficult to overnight, difficult to change it, but the government is interested in this. But at present, we are facing this trouble. That's the first one. The second one is at present the operation level of buses and the taxis. The entire taxi service, 100% of the taxi service are handled by the private sector at present. The bus operation. At present, the bus management is not at the required levels. Once we complete our terminal, so we are going to provide the ICT-based terminal operation systems, real-time management, electronic ticket, and those things. But we need some time to train the operators and the drivers, the conductors, those people. So it takes some time. There is another gap to fill before we implement this. Thank you.
Thank you, Panchula. So the need for reskilling and also political economy and regulation flowing what Tae-Young was mentioning also. All right, so this concludes our panel. I don't know if we have perhaps time for one or two questions. Yes, please.
All right, it seems to be working. Hi, everybody. Ryan Sklar, NG Impact. Wondering if, we talked about a lot of innovations here. Could anybody speak a little bit to how you might infuse these in an informal transit system? I know that you did speak a little bit about right now, the last response, privatized bus companies and getting them involved, but wondering if you could speak a little bit, anybody on the panel, more to specifically how you instill these great innovations in a system where you're not just talking to one bus or bus operator, but it's an informal system with disparate number of people involved.
Great question. Yes, please.
Is that working? My name is Ashraf. I'm from Germany. I think that's a very interesting question, and I just wanted to point out that last year the GIZ published a white paper on exactly this very much question, and it was looking at the business model for the popular transit and how this access to finance, and it has a lot of experience from Africa, which is also related to what Heather just mentioned. But I can talk to you on this. There is a huge book on that, and it was a lot of innovations. If that answers your question.
Any other question? No. Yes, please. Yeah.
I actually was listening very carefully. I come from Germany, and I constantly have a problem with the word innovation. And I was very happy to hear that innovation is not innovation. That this word needs an innovation in the way we think about innovation. And how this innovation reflects very different from Korea, where a typical bureaucracy and the legal framework really hinders this innovation, while you see in other countries where the legal framework is not so established, where things can really go fast. And one of the things I really love and take away is the love story part. And this is a real innovation for me. How to bring environment and employment, how to bring this with that, how to bring the legal framework with the technology. I think that was for me the innovation for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this comment. So is there anyone in our panelists in our panel who would like to take that question of how you bring innovations, but also how would you scale innovation in an informal transport context? Henrik, you wanted to go in?
Well, I mean, cycling is the most anarchist means of transportation in the world. And I mean that positively. Like, this is like when you hear customer supports that thanks to AI, they can run 24/7 customer support. That's basically what I'm offering with cycling. Because as long as you provide the physical conditions, people will put in the input. You don't need a governing body. It's not like we have a special commissioner for cycling in Copenhagen who regulates cycling behavior. You just need to create the physical space for it. And I purposely didn't talk about cycle tracks because that's one model you can apply, but building cycle tracks all over the world would be expensive and take time. So just regulating the system when it comes to speeds, you can have a perfectly operative anarchist informal transport system. The input, you don't have to get electric sources or gas or gasoline. It runs on people. So I think that's a very good solution. And the fun thing is that actually a lot of the places where we see cycling, it already happens informally today. I mean, most people know the cases of formal cycling culture in the Netherlands and Denmark, Germany, other places, but many places we see a lot of invisible cycling in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa. So I think it's again back to just seeing it. And I'm asking that whenever we have these conversations, cycling is not left as something we have on the side and it's like a funny token thing, but like something we look at and say, this is actually moving tens of thousands of people in so many places. And if we just level the playing field a little bit, it can be an enabler for all the other great stuff working with transit, etc.
Just to add, I love that the takeaways so far are love and anarchy. Let's do it. And I mean, gosh, bicycles are run by people. Really? Wow, that's such an innovative idea. Instead of AI doing it. But to answer the question specifically about informal transport, again, I think electrification is a new opportunity to take advantage of with that. And we see really interesting, again, new business models coming into places where we have a lot of small fleets operating, informal fleets. So I mentioned Ethiopia earlier in Addis Ababa, where most of their fleets today are small minibuses that are decades old, that are belching out tons of awful black carbon and other fuels emissions that are bad for everyone's health. So we need to get those fleets off the street and modernize them. That can mean moving to things like bus rapid transit, and I provided some figures earlier about that, some new corridors that we're working on, and the benefit there is that you can fit more people into the buses and move more people. But we also know that the integration of the existing minibuses is so key. And there, again, because the economy is going to electrification, their fuel, the charging for the fleets is cheaper. And so you see small operators able to afford moving over to electric buses and paying them through small increments over time through leasing programs. So instead of having to purchase the bus up front, small businesses are able to purchase them over time through leasing arrangements. And so we see more and more of these private sector enterprises moving into countries where the economics work out. And they're selling these buses, again, not because it's good for the environment or any of these other reasons, which of course it is, but really because it's good for the economy.
Thank you, Heather. This is a fascinating discussion. Unfortunately, we have to close it. But to conclude our session, it's my great pleasure and honor to invite Mr. Keshab Kumar Sharma, who is the Secretary of the Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport of Nepal, who will deliver the closing remarks.
Thank you, Moderator Mr. Thank you, Moderator Mr. Nicholas. First of all, I am thankful to the World Bank and KOTI for inviting me in this very precious session. Mr. Moderator, esteemed panelists, expert colleagues. Let me briefly reflect on today's panel discussion. Across the cases shared, a common message was clear. Innovation delivers results when it moves beyond pilots and embedded in institutions, regulations, and financing framework. The discussion highlighted that scaling is often considered not by technology itself, but by institutional readiness, fragmented governance, and lack of sustainable financing, and that governments and development partners play instrumental role in bridging the gap by aligning policy, capacity building, and investment support. The benefit from promoting BRT and non-motorized mode of transport, that is cycling, highlighted during the session could be replicable to all of us in our respective countries or fields. Similarly, economic growth is of most necessity to the underdeveloping countries like Nepal, and I am confident that the discussions and delivery are much useful to me and my country. First, on e-mobility, one of the most notable transport innovation in Nepal has been the introduction of electric vehicles. These novel technologies have been strongly supported by the government of Nepal through attractive incentives such as supportive policies and fiscal incentives to boost their uptakes by reducing their high upfront capital cost. Nepal sees electric mobility as both climate imperative and an economic opportunity. These vehicles boost economic growth through their lower operating cost and reducing the need to import fossil fuels, rather using clean energy that is hydropower produced domestically. Nepal has emerged as one of the world's fastest adopters of electric vehicles, with recent data indicating that roughly 70 to 76% of new passenger vehicle sales are electric as of 2024-2025, placing the country among the global leaders in EV market share. This represents a dramatic increase from about 8% in 2019. This is not limited only to the small vehicles or cars, but also to the buses for public transportation. The government has set ambitious electrification goals through its climate and transport policies, aiming 90% of new private vehicle sales to be electric and 60% of public passenger vehicle to be electric by 2030. High EV uptake has been enabled by Nepal's electricity system, largely powered by hydro and solar power, a real clean energy. We have not any coal power system or nuclear power system. It is dominantly hydroelectricity and some complemented by the solar electricity. As Nepal is sacrificing part of its import tax revenues for EV, it deserves to receive more funds such as climate finance and carbon financing from climate-related institutions, including GGGI, to support Nepal's initiatives for promoting EV and contributing to the global environmental impact, so that we can develop, improve, and upscale necessary transport infrastructure in Nepal. So far, we still have a significant investment gap for upscaling both the transport infrastructure as well as the public transport service sectors. Currently, Nepal is benefiting from e-mobility academy implemented by the World Bank in collaboration with Korean partners, which is strengthening our policy and technical capacity and supports knowledge exchange and technology transfer. We wish to further upscale this collaboration. Second, on urban mobility and the role of technology. As our cities expand, innovation must focus on system integration, not isolated projects. Key priorities for Nepal include integrated fare collection system, coordinated scheduling across modes, and performance-based contracts with operators. Korea's experience with bus system reform, combining integrated ticketing, data-driven planning, real-time information system, and strong public oversight with private operations offers highly relevant lessons for cities like Kathmandu. These reforms demonstrate how technology, regulation, and contracts together can improve service quality, productivity, and users' trust. Mobilizing private sector experience and capital is very critical, achieving innovation impact at scale for urban mobility. Third, on resilience and asset management. Being a disaster vulnerable country, resilience is at the core of transport innovation for Nepal. Through programs such as Green Resilient Inclusive Development, GRID for road corridor development, and the third bridge improvement and maintenance program, BEAM-3, with the World Bank, we are adopting a holistic climate resilient design framework. This work integrates Department of Hydrology and Meteorology data to assess landslide and flood hazards and feed into a dynamic dashboard that will be linked to our bridge management system. The objective is to support risk-informed investment. Decision-making, moving from reactive repairs to proactive resilience planning. I acknowledge the Korean support in collaboration with the World Bank back in 2014 that kick-started this digital-led thinking through the piloting of innovative mobile phone-based system for monitoring project implementation and asset verification in Nepal's first bridge improvement and maintenance program, BEAM-1. We have also initiated multidisciplinary discussion with experts from hydrology, geology, and geotechnical fields for improving our design course for enhanced resilience of roads and bridges. In closing, Nepal's experience reinforces a central message from today's session, that is, despite of challenges, transport innovation delivers results when policy, finance, technology, and institutions advance together in a collaborative approach. We value our partnership with the World Bank Group and Korean institutions in helping us move from pilots to scalable, resilient solutions, and we look forward to deepening these collaborations. I thank all of you, moderator, panelists, participants, to make this session vibrant and live. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Secretary Sharma. I also want to thank our panelists and all those of you participants. Again, a big thank you to Dr. Shin and our KOTI colleagues for co-organizing this session. And I wish you an excellent rest of Transforming Transportation.
It's nice to meet
I know we're like pouring our water at the same